Hello everyone and welcome to a new WARNO video, and this is a first look video on the new divisions. 8th Infantry Division for the American and the 39th Gv Strelky Division for the Soviets. And this should be interesting. It's on the alpha bolt that we have in the strike team, so things in these divisions are still subject to change. Pictures might change, stats might change, but overall they should be somewhat close to what we will see in the live version later on. So let's jump in and have a look on what is to come. So the 8th Infantry Division. Here we go. And we don't see much new here. Even the amount of stuff we can get in the logistics tab is the same, and we have exactly the same stuff. We have 2 cards of nuts, we have 1 card of helicopters, we have our 3 supplies, our 4th supply with the helicopter, and an M577. So, I guess for now there's no new things here. Hopefully there will be new things coming over the next couple of weeks, but I guess this is what we get at the beginning with this division. Let's go over to infantry. And here we have a lot of familiar faces as well. We have the military police, which is interesting. We get them again. We get our M67 again. We got some engineers in all the different forms. 3 cards of engineer dragons. What is interesting is we get 4 cards of mech rifles. And then obviously the most interesting part of this is that we get Jägers and Heimatschützen. And the Jäger, Führer, gets the Carl Gustav with 19 penetration, 750 meter range, compared to Law's 530 meter. So pretty decent 66mm rocket anti-tank weapon. Then we have the Panzerfaust. And the Panzerfaust 44 with the Jägers. The MG3 G3A4s, 55 points, quite expensive. Like, more than the engineers. But the MG3 seems to be quite good. And they come only with trained veterancy though, which makes them maybe a bit weak, because currently veterancy is quite good. So you want to take your infantry often on veteran, or even on elite. I often take them on veteran, so that's something to take into account. As, yeah, Western German troops, at least in this division, were not the most experienced, so that's what we get here. And then we have the Heimatschützen, which are your reserve forces, and they have only poor experience, but they only cost 45 points, so they're quite cheap. Their LMG is a HK21, which is a weaker version if we compare these two to each other. Okay, there you heard the first couple of German voice lines. Then they actually, yeah. Wait, why? Is the stats don't add up, do they? Because they're pretty much even. Heimatschützen come with less veterancy, but yeah, the MG3 has the same rate of fire and way less accuracy. Okay, this is weird. These stats are weird, but yeah, I would expect the MG3 in the final version to be a better gun, but for now it looks like the HK21 seems to be the superior one. Rate of fire also should be better for the MG3, I would guess, but yeah. That's obviously, yeah, that's what I said, with work in progress. Hopefully that's different on the launch version, but we will see. Let's come to the artillery tab. Here we have a lot of familiar faces as well, but 2 new ones. We don't have the cluster MLRS, but we have the M110 A2 self-propelled artillery gun. 203mm, the biggest caliber yet in the game. We have to see what the Soviet brings around later on. 9 rounds per minute is pretty decent, same as our 155mm here. Costs you 90 points more though, but has quite a bit more range, and the HE and blast also seem to be quite a bit better. Yeah, speed is the same and so on, so the chassis, yeah, as you can see, chassis is similar. So, yeah, should be a good weapon. And then we have a really cheap artillery piece in form of the M125 mortar. We have the 107mm mortar already, but this is one now is an 81mm mortar with really close range, really short range for WARNO levels of artillery. But obviously, being so cheap, you can get out a lot of them. You get them with similar availability, a bit better. You can see you get 6 instead of 4 without veterancy, though the veterancy drop-off is a bit harder than for the M1, but for the 107mm. But you don't want to take artillery veterancy anyways, because only the rate of fire is really what matters here. Then tanks. You get a couple of new ones as well. We get the Patents, bit of older tanks at this stage. And as you can see, they are the weakest tanks we have so far when it comes to AP values. 13 penetration, 10 frontal armor. So yeah, really, we had the creme de la creme when it came to tank weapons so far. Now we see a bit more what the lower and medium end of tanks look like in the game. 10 frontal armor, 13 penetration. No ATGMs or anything like that. It goes also 79, so the standard speed on the road, 54 off the road. So yeah, they are not amazing. This as a leader costs 195. The normal one only costs 95 points though. It's cheaper than an M7 28, so that's also new. We have now patents that cost less than a ATGM vehicle, which is quite interesting. As I don't know if that's quite the case, if they are worse than them. I mean, they have less penetration, so they can't really fight against tanks, I guess. Like, not against T-80s and T-64s at least. You really don't want to have that happen. You can sideshot them, but everything else, like frontal armor, you don't deal any damage or minimal damage. So you have to be really careful there. But against any light armor or any infantry, these should be quite helpful still. We will have to see how they perform in action. Stats-wise, they look pretty decent. I mean, having a 50 cal in a normal MG always helps out. The HE value on the gun is also similar to what we have on the normal Abrams. Yeah, a bit lower than on the M1A1. And then we have the normal M1 Abrams as well, the OG. And as you can see, this is also quite a bit weaker than the normal M1A1, not even to talk about the M1A1 HA. They only have 13 penetration as well, same as the pattern. They have more frontal armor though than the pattern, but also still 2 less than the M1A1. And other than that though, they get the MGs as well, and they are faster than the M1A1, at least. So they are quite speedy off-road. 68 km off-road is one of the faster speeds we have currently in the game, but you have to be really careful with what you bring around, because you're limited to only 6 slots in this division. And you have quite a lot of choices to choose from here now. You have up to 4 cards of M1A1s, so you could just pull everything M1 Abrams, and then the M1A1 you also have 3 cards. There's also an M1 Abrams command version. I find it interesting that all the command versions are the snow camouflage. But yeah, I like having a distinction between them is nice, and I'm against snow camouflage in general. Like, sure, might not be the perfect fit for the maps we have currently, but good looking tanks is what matters for me, not really if the camouflage fit perfectly. Then let's go into Recon, where we also have a couple new things. We have the scouts that we know, we have the Cavs, we have the M150s, but we also get Ranger LRPs with a new anti-tank rocket launcher, the AT-4CS. 19 penetration, also 750 mid range, so it's comparable to the Carl Gustav. And they are pretty well armed as well. M4 carbines and 2 M2 or 9s, so they can give some solid fire support as well. 65 points obviously puts them above the scouts. Optic wise, they are the same. And transport wise, what do they bring around? They come in Apaches or in the truck. Oh yeah, something else we have to... I forgot to check here. Yeah, the Jaegers and so on only come in Unimogs. Yep. Get an Iltis or the Jägerführer. These also only come in Unimogs. And these come in Iltis and 130. We don't have the half. We don't have Bradleys, it seems like. You know, nothing comes in Bradleys. All in Iltis or M113s. So yeah, no Bradleys this time, which is a bit of a shame. We also don't have them in the recon tab. We at least have Kiovas in the air. And then we also have a recon Jeep with a 50 cal on top. Which I'm not quite sure if that's worthwhile. It has exceptional optics and has mediocre stealth, so maybe having the exceptional optics might help out. But other than that, 50 points for a Jeep, when you can pay 5 points more, for example, for an ACAF, is a tough amount to ask for. I would say 40 points, or maybe even less, like 35 points would be a good point to put these on. Like, unarmored Jeeps, currently, maybe with how tanky they are for some weird reason, they might be okay, but I don't feel like that will stay for too long. Maybe it's already changed in that version. I haven't checked out the gameplay on this version yet that we have currently. So, yeah, that's something. Then, anti-air, we got some Flak-Rakete Red-Eye, which is that different to the Stinger? It's a bit weaker than the Stinger. It has a lot less. Wow, it's way weaker than the Stinger, and it only costs you. It only comes for 5 points cheaper. It might be an indicator that the Stinger is maybe a bit overperforming because it has 2 less HE, so it needs. Like, you can't kill armored helicopters or planes with it, really. It deals like 1 or 2 damage per hit. And you have only 35 accuracy, so everything with any plane also reduces it with its ECM basically to 10% accuracy. So it's only good against unarmored helicopters, and there are not too many around on the Soviet side of those currently. So yeah, don't bring these in the current version, I would say. Cool that we get them, but I hope they will become better. We also see the UT here as a new SMG. And then we have Chaparrals, Pivots, OH, 58 CS, and Stingers. So that's nothing new. And a lot of Stingers. Helicopters? Do we get something new here? Nope. It's Cobras. A lot of Cobras. Slot availability is decent. But I'm pretty sure in the air tab we get something new. Yeah. Yeah, we get the Alpha Jet A HE Napalm version as well. Cute little bird. Goes 702 kilometers. Has some sidewinders to defend itself a bit against other air units or shoot down some helicopters. Brings the Napalm and only 115 points, or 75 points only, but yeah, only two small bombs, so I'm not quite sure how good they are. 0% ECM also is a big oof. Minus 0%, to be exact. So yeah, has exceptional agility. We will have to see how they perform. I don't think they will do too well. Yeah, I'm not a big believer in these. But the next thing might be different, which is the EF-111A Raven, which is a really fast, like the classic F-111 Seat plane now. So hunting down radar-guided AA with these should be quite doable, even more so than with the F4 version we have currently, and the third US Armored. And then we also get some F-16s. First as cluster bombers. Another 1200 kmh cluster bomber. Only drops 2 bombs though. I wonder, I guess they will go closer to the ground to use them. Has a Vulcan, has 2 sidewinders. 145 points, so medium price there. And then we also have F-16Es as fighter versions. With some AM-7A Sparrows, 7,700 meter range. So that should be quite decent. But yeah, this deck also gets 2 cards of A-10 Thunderbolts with the ATGM rockets, which might be okay. yeah, I'm wondering how this deck will do, especially against armored decks. I feel like it might struggle quite a bit. Like, at least you get a couple of M1A1s. But, yeah, I guess you gotta rely a lot on mech rifles. The German infantry, I'm not quite sure how good they will be. Like, the Jäger's MG feels kind of weird. Like, the accuracy stats are closer to Steel Division there. With 10% static, 5% motion, which I'm not sure if that's on, like, on purpose or what's going on there. Same with the, yeah, like what's because the Heimat, like if that's some version they want to go to, and they already changed it for the Jaegers and not for all the other MGs. We will have to see. We will have to see, I guess, how it will be in the launch version. I guess the M60 also has it like this. So, yeah, maybe it's just the HK and the M249 that are too high. Like that's what would be my guess, but yeah, we will see. We will see. There has to be a change for sure for that. So let's move on to the Soviets. Let's see if they bring a bit more new stuff around. Yeah, this seems to be rather close to what we already saw for the Americans. A couple new birds, a couple, yeah, one more AA unit, a couple more recon options, with only the Rangers being really something I would like to use. The Jäger Aufklärers are basically same as your Jägers, but as recon, with exceptional optics, so that might be good. But yeah, they have the MG3 with the low accuracy, so we will see. We will see. At least the G3 A4 is a really good gun. But let's move over to the Soviets. Let's have a look on them. What they bring around. Okay. So similar thing here, but we had a Soviet Mi-9 helicopter for capturing points. Other than that, we get BTRs instead of BTR 60s as our commanders. No 100-point commanders in this deck. Oh no, the Mi is 100 point, but it only comes in with 2 availability. But if you want to have a 3 availability one, you have to go up to 120 points in the logistics tab. 160 for the BMP, that one we already know. So yeah, Ural and Snap as your classic supplies. No Mi-9 or Mi-8 helicopter. The Mi-9 has no armor, so that's a difference to the Mi-8. Otherwise it looks kind of similar. I'm not the most familiar with Cold War equipment, but I guess they're like, this is just a step up version of the Mi-8. That's really a lot of similarities in the design. Infantry tab. Oh, we got another URATS. We got again the URATS with the AGS 17 on top. 30mm grenade launcher. And now we also get a Eastern German URATS with an with an anti-tank weapon. This self-propelled gun 9, I guess, SPG 9. High explosive anti-tank. I guess a recall-less, yeah, it's a real recall-less rifle. 15 penetrations, pretty decent, like comparable to what we got on the American side. 1700 range is even more than what we got with the M67, right? Like it has more penetration than that. So these might be quite helpful. They only have bad stealth though. With mediocre stealth I would see them being really annoying. Bad stealth maybe not so much. But they still can help out. And you have a lot of slots, so maybe you want to fill them in, as you get 12 on like normal trained level, 8 on veterancy. Or I guess on highest, so I wouldn't go there, but yeah, like these 2 options. Other than that, infantry is what we know from the Soviets. We get our Gv Strelky Medis, but we get them in MTLBs, which is a new carrier. They haven't fixed this button here yet, so I have to click real careful to get on it. MTLB has a PKT, and yeah, they also have a BMP option. But yeah, this only being 10 points is kind of nice for an armored vehicle that is also decently fast. But or you can get your cheap BMPs. I'm pretty sure they want to change the prices. I'm not quite sure if that will be in the next launch version of it's the one after. They've changed the prices back up. But yeah, currently 10 points for a thing with a MG on top that is slightly armored. Sounds pretty nice. And yeah, as you can see, you get your... Why do the BMP ones... Oh, we get BMP 3s as well. Okay, that's cool. That's a new unit. That is for sure worth talking about. BMP 3 comes with the Bastion Salkos, which have less penetration than the Conquerors of the BMP 2, but quite a bit more range. 200 meters more range, which I don't think increases the penetration when they get closer for missiles though. But yeah, the Bastion Salkos Saklos looks pretty nice. And then they get a 100mm gun on top with decent HE stats and an autocannon. They have both. They have a 30mm autocannon, like the BMP2. Is it the same one? Yeah, it's the same one. And they have the 100mm gun, so they can dish out quite some damage. And they only cost 10 points more. Like, speed-wise, they're even better on roads. And they have better optics as well, so they also can see stuff. So, yeah, bringing these around, I would say, is worthwhile. It might help you out in dealing with enemy armor a bit. It only has HE, but enemy infantry should be careful of running into the 100mm gun then, I guess. In the RT tab, we have one new member. The big rockets have arrived, 220mm compared to the BMP's 122mm. The Uragan is here, and that looks scary. RD spam might be back on the menu. You get 2 per cards instead of the 3 that you get for the Grats, but they only cost 30 points more. What's the difference in damage? Let's have a look. They deal nearly double the damage and double the suppression. So, yeah, the Uragan is a thing that you really want to have. Obviously, they also only fire half the amount of rockets per shot. Or they... Oh, that's 16 those are 20, right? No, are these 40s? Yeah, no, they fire like half the amount of rockets. Okay, that's 16. They only bring 1 load now. Same here. So you have to reload them after 1 usage. For the Soviets. I didn't check the MLRSs if that's also changed for them. But yeah, with only Urals as like relatively small supply trucks, 1100, you will need quite a couple of these to keep these going, but they also deal a lot of damage. They also have a way bigger range than the BM-21s, so yeah, that might be the new rocket spam since cluster nerf. We will see. We will see how deadly these guys will be. In the tank tab, we have BRDM Conquerors that are still only 30 points. So yeah, you can still spam these. We have some MTLB Sturm with Kokon Saklos, which is a higher range version. Other than that, similar to the Conquerors. Also has more accuracy, but a little bit less rate of fire. So you still should be quite a bit more deadly with the accuracy and the range. I'm not quite convinced that they're worth double the points and half the availability though. Like, that's something you have to sell me on. You have to kill me with these guys before I'm on board with these. But that also shows you that the BRDM is just too cheap. Like, I feel like 60, 70 points for the Sturm might be worthwhile. But the Conquerors needs to go up to like 45, 50. Because 30 points is just like, yeah, you can't just suicide them into TADBs, for example. And like, if 1 out of 5 gets a kill, you're still making good profit. Which is kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, the TADBs are back as well, and they're back to their normal penetration values. Sorry guys, they weren't supposed to have 19 penetration. So, yeah, I know a lot of Soviet fanboys will now cry out and be like, oh my god, but how dare you having my beautiful TADB. But no, the fan service is over. TADB back to realistic levels of penetration with its guns. And you also get other familiar faces with the T80V with 80 penetrations and T69 back on 20 penetration. And still having the Argona 32 penetration ATGM. So decent and tank tab here. Like, I would still say this is a competitive tank tab for sure. Yeah, we have to see how these perform. I wish they would have like a bit higher availability maybe. I mean, they have way less availability than any of the tanks, which just doesn't make them really looking like something I want to take right now. I mean, they have the highest range, but not by a super big margin. Like 200 meters is not insanely much in this game. So yeah, we will have to see how they perform. In the recon tab, a lot of familiar faces. We switched our left Spetsnaz though for Grancers, which only have very good optic. Sad. They also only come in V50 LAs, so no BMPs for them. Or helicopters with rocket. Do the Retretkas come with helicopters? Ah, okay, we have still our Mi-80s. ATs for the Retretkas. How many do they get? Only one cut of Retretka heavies, so yeah, and the only 6 helicopters. But at least you can still get those. The Grancers come with an RPG-7V, which is now down to 23 penetration, by the way. But the wish is still pretty good, but it doesn't one-shot everything anymore. But yeah, against light armor it's still a 1 kill, and against tanks you might need 2 hits now, against the heavier ones. Or even 3 hits, and some, like frontal armor hits against the M1A1 HA are not really effective anymore. Yeah, you get an RPK, you get some KMS 72s. They look like a decent squad for 60 points. But, like, they're kind of like a... yeah, they're basically Retretka heavies. With a bit better optics and an RPG 7V. So, paying 25 points extra for that is kind of decent, as they also come with the same availability. I would say Grancers might be worthwhile, but I wish they would have a better transport option as well. Like, that's the big issue here in this. In the anti-air tab. Ooh, we have something new here. We have 2 new things here. We first off have the BRDM Strela now. And not only the MTLB, which is still there. This one only has 4 rockets. But it costs you only half the points. And it has the same weapon system. It has the same Strela weapon system. It can't fire in motion though. Oh, it's not. No, it's not the same weapon system at all. It's a it's a Strela 1 against a Strela 10M. It has the same ranges, but it can't fire on motion and it has less accuracy. So, and isn't fire and forget. So, yeah, no, it really is a lot weaker, but also only 60 points. And comes with better availability. Only by 2, but it comes with better availability. Meanwhile, OSA is still the OSA, so that's a solid option. And then we have the ZSU 23, where you can see work in progress. But the ranges against helicopters and planes are pretty decent, especially the one against helicopters, same as the Strelas, or like, yeah, same as the Strelas. So, and quite a lot of damage to dish out here as well. Can fire on motion. So I would say these might be quite decent for 60 points, especially as they can also help you out with ground targets. Like, they look on paper maybe better than the pivots. I mean, they have a bit less range than the pivots, but they also cost you 15 points less. Availability is a bit on the low side though, so we have to see how good the ZSU 23s will behave. Might be interesting to have an eye on. Like, yeah, we should for sure test these out. Could be quite helpful in dealing with helicopter rushes and so on. We will see. Ooh, and the helicopter tab though has a lot of new lovely vehicles here. We have a couple of new Hinds. We have a couple of new Mi-8s. So let's start here. Mi-8 8MT brings in 9 6 rocket points for 90 points. So this is basically what we had with the Me 8T with the rockets or the transport before, which they now reduced to only 4 rocket pods. These now have 6 rocket pods again. Yeah, that sounds like a solid option. Only comes in with 2 on the normal trade experience. So then for 110 points, you get a bigger rocket pod. It's the same rocket, but you get double the payload, or like even a bit more than double the payload per rocket pod. So that should be interesting. Do they fly slower? Nope, same speed, so you don't lose anything there. And then you get the bigger rockets on the last one, which dish out quite a bit more damage. Same speed as well. And they cost less. This one costs less than this one. So I guess the DPS up front is more, but it can't keep up firing for as long. So we will have to see which one you want to take. Like, I feel like one of these two is the one you want to go for, because availability is similar to the first one, or the same actually. But you get quite a bit more rockets for just a bit less more money. So I feel like this might be the one to go for, because having quick stun power and kill power is always nice. But maybe you don't want to take any of these. Let's go to the Heinz. To the Me-24V. The first one comes in with air-to-air ATGM rockets. So that's the first Soviet helicopter with ATGMs. And the Kokon M is a deadly one at that. 22 penetration brings it nearly on par with the one we have for the Americans, and it's for sure really solid for 105 points on the armored helicopters. Like, these look scary, like not much worse than what we got for the Apaches, and the Apache is 205 points. Well, you have only the Gatling gun is worse, and the GGNs are worse, but are they 100 points worse is the question. You only get them 1 per card as well, so at least Eugen is careful there to not allow you too many helicopters, which is a good way, I feel like, to try to balance them. Then we get an AA version with Iglas and also some air-to-ground rockets, though. So it's kind of similar to what we have in the 79th, only that it has the better rocket pods, so it's not really a better AA version of the Me-24V. But it can help you out with killing helicopters quite well with these. Also sometimes it helps out with killing planes, but helicopter hunting is what its main task is. For 140 points, you get a quite decent payload here. You can help out with ground targets. Like, it's also quite similar to what you got in the other one, but with better rockets. So yeah, looking forward to these. Only 30 points more than the one in the 79 for the 80mm rockets compared to the 57 that you got on the other one. And then we get the AT version. Wait. Why is this one cheaper? Also, okay, I'm pretty sure this one is not supposed to have the cocons, because these are, I guess, the 122mm rockets. Thoughts? Yeah, where are the cocons? Are these? Oh yeah, no, these are the, right? Yeah. Oh, this one has 8. This one only has 4. That's why you pay 200 points. Yeah, that's again Eugen's weird logic of pricing things. Because yeah, the rocket one is the better one, just like in the Apaches, only that this one is not 400 points at least, but only 200. And this one is only 105 instead of 245. But yeah, this one is the better one, because you also get really good 122mm rockets. Here you only get the 80mm rockets, and usually you only need 4 to 6 ATGMs. Not the 8. Like, I have never used up 8 ATGMs with a helicopter so far, without it having to reload or it died before. So yeah, 4 might be a bit, like, you might run out of these sometimes, so it is worse, I guess, maybe than this, but not half price worse. Especially as it has the really big rockets. So yeah, we will have to see how this goes. I first thought that these are the ATGM launchers, but no, right, these are the ATGM launchers, these are the rocket pods, obviously, yeah, if you look at it closer. Yeah, I thought those were the, yeah, because the Iglas and the Cocons look exactly the same nearly? No, not quite, but quite similar. So at first thought these were Iglas. But then I realized, yeah, this one doesn't have Iglas, so it's the Cocons there, yeah. Okay, let's stop rambling and let's go on to the last helicopter, which is the equivalent to the Apache, I would guess. The Mi-24 VP, because it also has the 30 mil, but it has a double 30 mil actually. That's why it's 360 points. It also comes in with the Cocon M, so this one looks really, really dangerous. But 360 points is also a lot to pay. And it doesn't have AR-to-AR ones, it has 16 Cocons. Okay, this is again huge in pricing, like you will never use 16 of them. As long as you can't fire them 2 at a time. Like this would be the way of, I would say like, yeah, okay, that's worthwhile if you can fire 2 at a time, but currently you can't do that. So, yeah. We have to see if this is worthwhile, 360 points. Would expect no one to use it, but I hope with a bit more reasonable pricing, this should be the Soviet equivalent of the high-level Apaches. And that will be really fun to see. Well, let's move on to the air tab, where we have a Su-22M as the first unit to greet us, with GDR pilots in it, or 500 kilogram bombs. 500 kilogram bombs are pretty decent, and then also some air-to-air missiles to deal with helicopters or help out with planes. 3,500 meter range is pretty decent for air-to-air rockets. It also has a 30 mil, so that's helpful in dealing with head-ons or also dishing damage to helicopters. Accuracy on the air-to-air missile is not the best, but for 135 points and a 1000 kmh plane, I'm kind of sold on this. 135 points should be pretty decent. Should be pretty decent. Looking forward to use this. Then we get all the Su-25 options we're used to, also the Su-24 options. And then our air-to-air options are MiG-23 MLA that is back to 335 points. Okay. Eugen, we have to double check these prices before launch of the, to the public, I guess. And the MiG-23 MF. What is the difference? Are they different in speed? Oh, no, ECM is the difference, which makes the MiG-23 MF really easy to kill. So this is really only for hunting things down. You get them in, you can get them in normal trained mode, where you only get 3, but might be worthwhile. So you lose accuracy on your air-to-air missiles, which you might want to consider. Like this is a tough question if you want to take on the joint veterancy to take these. And also, yeah, 45 points for quite a bit less survivability. We'll have to see how to build this. Yeah, the Soviet deck looks like quite a bit different compared to the other Soviet deck, what you will end up with, other than the infantry tab. The infantry tab is a bit of a disappointment. Here you will just, I guess you will just spam Gv Strelky BMPs and BMP3s. Like, that's, I feel like what I will end up with. RPOs only coming in UATs and BTRs. So there's nothing new there. Gas and BTRs. Yeah. So, yeah, BMP1s, BMP1s. Yeah, so I feel like we will have a lot of BMP3s driving around in this division. And then maybe some UATs with the recoilless rifle. But yeah, the artillery tab will have organs. Tank tab, it's also quite similar. But the helicopters, the new planes, and the new AA. Yeah, it feels that these divisions are pretty close to home. I guess that's why we get them as the newest, because a lot of the modules are the same. So that's why we get them after the first 2 divisions, because they have a lot of similarities and assets used. So yeah, I'm really hyped for the German divisions to come, but this is it for now with these 2. I hope you enjoyed the brief overview over these divisions. And yeah, feel free to leave any questions or comments down below. And if you like the content, feel free to leave a follow and a like. See you next time.